You're watching Camnet World News. My name is Sharon Kalimbola. Thank you so much for joining us. We look at the stories making headlines. Enhanced condom adverts enticing teens to entangle CARITAS Zambia. Retired Catholic Archbishop TELESPHORE MPUNDU accuses the PF government of dividing the church. And CSO'S demand for the immediate withdrawal of the NGO Act from Parliament. In international news, counting underway in Ivory Coast, boycotted poll. Finally, in sports news, NAPSA stars hold ZESCO United. Join me shortly for the details.
Camnet TV invites all registered castor seed farmers for a 3-day training session. On Monday, 2nd November from 0830 hours, training for trainers cost 1,020 kwacha per participant. On Tuesday, 3rd November and Wednesday, 4th November, training for all castor growers, 620 kwacha per participant, lunch inclusive. Choose one day only.
Speakers will be Pastor Moses Chiluba, Israel Kimbo from Zimbabwe, Professor Rida from Egypt.
Venue, the Healing Word Ministries International in Arbex Hill. For more information, registration and payments, use the following numbers: 0979 753010, 0962 382535, 0962 965883. Cost for castor seed and fertilizer is $805 or kwacha equivalent. Deposit in Zanaco account number 57642835000191 Lewanika Mill branch. Let's make Zambia an economical powerhouse for Africa.
Thank you so much for joining us. Some civil society organizations have continued to demand for the immediate withdrawal of the Non-Governmental Organizations NGO Act of 2009 from the actual comprehensive NGO currently on the Zambia Law Development Commission. According to the Chief Government spokesperson, who is also Information and Broadcasting Services Minister, Dora Silia, the objective of the bill is to amend the NGO Act of 2009 to revise the functions of the board and to monitor the risk of the abuse of NGOs for serious crimes. But those engaged by Camnet TV News say they will not accept a piecemeal amendment of the Act regardless of the pressure government is under to fulfill the international dictates. Details in this report.
According to the civil society organizations, the Non-Governmental Organization Amendment Bill 2020, currently before the National Assembly, does not have a blessing from NGOs as it lacks consultation from the sector. The bill is being amended to incorporate a section on money laundering and terrorism financing under the NGO Act No. 16 of 2009, which is currently under the process of repeal and replacement. The repeal and the replacement of the same act has reached a completion stage and was spearheaded by a technical working group constituted by the government itself through the Ministry of Community Development and Social Services. Action Aid Country Director Naluchaziwa has maintained that the fact that the government has used the back door to undermine this process to try to strengthen a rejected act by the NGOs is a sign of desperation and lack of respect for stakeholders' consultation and input in legislative process.
Permits that we demand for the withdrawal of the bill from the National Assembly and be replaced by the actual comprehensive NGO bill currently with the Zambia Law Development Commission. We shall not accept piecemeal amendments of the Act regardless of the pressure government is under to fulfill the international dictates. We urge all NGOs interested in seeing a legal framework that respond positively to the growth of the sector to reject this piecemeal amendment and press for the tabling of the bill developed by the Technical Working Group under the supervision of Zambia Law Development Commission and the Ministry of Community Development, respectively.
I also spoke to Governance, Elections and Research Services GEARS Initiative Executive Director McDonald Chipenzi.
The NGO Act, they have sponsored an amendment right now as we are speaking to strengthen the NGO Act, which we, civil society and NGOs, have rejected. Because there's a demand from donors and other countries to include issues of money laundering and financial illicit flows and terrorism financing. They have put it there. We have said, no, we don't need that. We should have waited because like the NGO Act is being replaced. And we have already done the draft. Why don't we push the draft that we have done than giving a piecemeal amendment to the NGO Act? So we are saying no. So,
meanwhile, a development activist, Lewis Mwape, is disappointed over government's stance on the NGO Act.
Did we consult the key stakeholders that have followed this process from 2009, or actually maybe far behind 2009, maybe from 2006 up to the time we had the 2009 NGO Act, which those who were in the civil society organization rejected. I think we still don't need an NGO Act that is not based on the policy. So we need, if the NGOs have agreed on the policy, which I know that the policy has made good progress provisions, and so we need to check how consistent is the NGO Act with the policy. If that is not the case, then that deviation is what the civil society organizations need to challenge and ensure that we have an NGO Act that will promote citizen participation, that will promote NGO participation in the governance and development processes.
Patrick Soko, Camnet News in Lusaka.
Higher Education Minister Brian Mushimba says frontline workers in the medical field play an important role in serving people's lives. Mr. Mushimba has since encouraged medical practitioners at the University Teaching Hospital Renal Unit to continue serving lives through the work they do. The minister said this when he graced the Thanksgiving luncheon to appreciate the medical staff in the Renal Unit. Meanwhile, convener of the event, Tabo Kawana, says people do not generally appreciate the work medical staff put in, hence the decision to take them away from their busy schedule to appreciate them. Let's get the details in this report. Renal or kidney failure is a global challenge affecting millions of people, and Zambia is no exception. There are two types of treatment for kidney failure, that is dialysis and kidney transplantation. Many would opt for transplant for fear of living their lives on dialysis. Renal dialysis treatment requires patients to undergo treatment for at least 2 days a week for a 4-hour session, something many feel is a difficult road to undertake. But with the help from the medical practitioners, many people's lives have been saved. Today, one of the patients who has come out in the open organized a Thanksgiving luncheon for the heroes and heroines of the renal unit at the University Teaching Hospital. Tabo Kawana says the men and women in white coats are angels sent from God and deserve to be thanked for saving the lives of many people. The day was celebrated under the theme, Thanking God for Angels in Our Medical Staff.
It's a very important event to us as patients who are on renal dialysis, because the members of staff at the UTH in the renal unit take very good care of us. As you know, the renal unit is a low cost, but the kind of treatment we get there is more than high cost. It's international standard. And we thought we'd take a day out today and just enjoy a meal with the members of staff there, just as a way of us to saying thank you to them for the kind of treatment that they give to us as patients. Most of the people that attend dialysis, they are very poor, but the kind of care and attention and dedication that we receive from the members of staff really is commendable. It is also commendable that the Ministry of Health affords an opportunity, because dialysis is very expensive. But today, patients are able to just go to the pharmacy and you receive your dialyzers, you receive your other inputs that you use for dialysis are very, very expensive, and you receive them free of charge, compliments of the Ministry of Health. So we just want to take this opportunity also to say thank you very much to the government of the Republic of Zambia via the Ministry of Health.
And in an unusual situation, Higher Education Minister Brian Mushimba attended the luncheon and used the opportunity to thank the medical staff, who he says plays an important role in the quality of life not only for the people in the renal department, but any other person needing help from the medical staff.
We're honoring the nurses. We're honoring the frontline staff. And I couldn't be anywhere better than here with Tabo and the patients and the providers of the care that you spoke about. You know, because you are that important to the cause. You are that important to the quality of life of the patients that you are treating. And listening to Tabo describe the detail of the care that you give, the dedication that you have to your job, it warms my heart that we are very good people taking care of us.
Meanwhile, National Development Planning Minister Alexander Chiteme was at hand to offer support to the medical staff and encourage them not to relent in the job that they do.
You are doing a wonderful job and we need to support you all the time. That's the very reason I adopted the children's runner unit at UTH. So that, because I saw kids with their lungs damaged, not because of chakolas like me, but because they were born with a condition, okay, that needs to be taken care of. And you people, because at the sight of blood, I was almost collapsing. But you brave that, you do that for people. May the good Lord bless you, may the good Lord add strength to you so that you can continue doing what you do all the time.
The medical staff who had little to say were grateful for the gesture. Sharon Kalimbula, Camnet News, Lusaka. Retired Lusaka Archbishop TELESPHORE MPUNDU has accused the governing Patriotic Front administration of dividing the church in the country. Archbishop MPUNDU has noted that the PF seems to be more appreciative of those singing songs of praises for them other than those providing them with checks and balances. According to him, the Patriotic Front deem those who advise them on national matters as enemies, while those praising them as friends, a move he says is detrimental to the growth of the nation. Archbishop MPUNDU says those bringing out the social ills in the country are simply trying to champion for a better Zambia for all, while those in the habit of perpetual praises of the governing party are only interested in brown envelopes they get. The retired Archbishop is also concerned with the application of the Public Order Act, accusing the Zambia police of abusing it.
Who wanted to become minister? I don't want to be a minister of government. I am already a minister of the church. So why not do that like what that? It's the government. They are very happy that they have divided the churches. But it is to their advantage, because tomorrow they will want us to come up and speak clearly. And we will say, no, it is up to you. That is your self-inflicted wound. Go ahead. So we are not allowed to do anything. When I speak up and say, you want to become president? I said, no. Politics is the biggest game in the whole world. Everyone participates. Like now, in the United States, it's election year, and for them it will be next November. Everyone comes to stand still. They're just talking about politics. I don't have to belong to a political party, you know, that we talk politics. I don't have to belong to any political party to say people are starving, people have no jobs. It is my right, it's my privilege. You know, you want to become president. I don't want to become president or minister. I hate those things. I'm allergic to partisan politics. No, you write to inform them and they say, no, what can you do? This Public Order Act was created in 1965, my brother. At the time of the British colonial administration, they didn't want the Africans to agitate for freedom. So they specified the way you can have meetings, even church meetings, you had to get permission. I have now with me a piece of paper from 1959 making an application to the police officer in Chintali that they should have the meeting because they can't have it in church. So many people will come to celebrate the rosary. So we will do it outside. Outside you need a permission. And so that permission was given to this particular priest.
CARITAS Zambia Executive Director Eugene Kabilika has observed that enhanced condom advertisement is fueling teenage pregnancies and child marriages. Mr. Kabilika notes with concern that barely a day passes without seeing a condom advert either on TV, newspaper or social media. According to him, the unending advertisements are sending negative messages to teens who want to explore what they hear and see. Eastern Province has recorded over 1,700 pregnancies among schoolgirls from January this year to date. Mr. Kabilika says the correct message to continue preaching about should be those of abstinence and not condom use. He is worried that at the pace at which the country is moving, it risks raising a generation that lacks good morals.
So I think for me, this is where the solution lies. We have to be categorical and teach our young people, teenagers, especially those that are still in school, grade 7, grade 9, up to grade 12. There is no way, there is no need for them to indulge themselves in sex. But you incite them if you start telling them, no, it is okay. If you use a condom, you will be okay. You will be safe from STs and all that. You are sending two different messages. On one hand, you are saying sex, no sex before marriage. Wait until you are married. But anyway, if you can't do that, you can use a condom. But then they choose the easier thing. So that is where the problem is. Sending two different messages that are conflicting. And young people, they are very, they like to discover things. So they discover and all that. And what do we see now? 1,200 people, students are pregnant. Others, they prefer now getting married because they've gotten used now to live with men. So they don't want to go back to school. They would prefer to stay with their boyfriends. It becomes socially, culturally chaotic. And then Zambia will be standing on nothing. No values, nothing. So once you throw away the values, I don't know what kind of a country will be actually created. A valueless country that does not hold anything at all to value. So this is my comment on the 1,000 girls.
A cultural expert, Moffat Moyo, has observed that no country can develop without promoting, encouraging intangible culture. Mr. Moyo, who is a lecturer at the University of Zambia in the literature department, says the study of intangible culture is key in upholding national identity and culture. He says the study of intangible culture heritage will aid various sectors in fostering development, like the tourism sector, as tourism is about attracting people to unique indigenous practices, festivals and beliefs. According to UNESCO 2003 Convention, intangible cultural heritage means the practice, representations, expressions, knowledge, skills, as well as cultural spaces associated therewith that communities, groups, and in some cases, individuals recognize as part of their cultural heritage.
That particular aspect of culture that is not touchable, that cannot be seen, okay, but it lives in the minds and bodies of the people, such as performances, beliefs, skills, knowledge, all that. That to me is what defines the people. So it's not these monuments that we have. It's what is in the people, what makes them be who they are, what makes them do what they are, that intangible cultural heritage focuses on. Now, when we start talking about intangible cultural heritage, or ICH in short, we are really talking about people. And my argument is that the more we focus on intangible cultural heritage, we are focusing on the reality of people. You are focusing on what people really are, what they believe, what their hopes, their fears.
Apologize for that. We continue with the news. Tourism and Arts Minister Ronald Stotela has charged that written records in form of books are a great contribution to the preservation of local knowledge and the benefit of generations to come. The minister was speaking in Lusaka Sunday when he launched 2 books authored in vernacular aimed at promoting local tourism to local tourists. Mr. Stotela says the book, authored in Lala by Lala Kalindula, musician and diplomat at the Zambian mission in India, Bangwe Navilej Senga, has expressed President Lungu, as it will market the Lala sanctity to locals beyond Chitambo, Serenje, Mkoshi and Luano district of Central Province. He says Mr. Bango's book, Kwilala Ukwelele Ichitala, is unique as it highlights the history of the Lala people that originated from Katanga region and how their way of life has been affected by urbanization and technology. And speaking earlier, Bangwena Village Senga says the resources from the book will help in the completion of 3 schools in Serenje, Mailos, Chisomo and Chibale chiefdoms.
Thank you. Give me another 2 minutes. And we need to preserve our culture. We need to document it for the future generation to come and learn of what we are and where we are coming from. And let me take this opportunity now to officially launch these 2 wonderful books. And I think I'll be the first one to buy the Bemba and the Lala books to contribute to the initiative by my 2 brothers.
I will be launching end of this week 3 schools that have been built from the previous book that profiled President Edgar Lungu. And I can say that anything that you write about President Lungu is actually marketable, and this is testimony to what happened to the previous publication that we launched on the minister.
I know that there is a lot of knowledge and there is a lot of skills out there that we are not preserving for our next generation. So it was my desire that I write something in Bemba so that even the next generation can come and see some the knowledge that we have acquired, the skills that we have acquired as people and as a country.
Zambia Breweries says while the country recognizes the effects of alcohol in communities, it is important for some communities to practice moderate intake of the beverage. Zambia Breweries Director Jose Daniel Moran has discouraged alcohol abuse, saying doing so will result in repercussions on families and the communities that they come from. Mr. Moran has also advised motorists never to drink as they take the wheels, saying beer impairs one's vision. Alcohol abuse continues to be a catalyst to prevailing high levels of gender-based violence. Zambia recorded 4,409 cases of gender-based violence in the second quarter of 2020.
All these biases, all these wrong behaviors, they need to be fought at the beginning. And the first thing that we need to do is education. Creating awareness around what is wrong, around the harm of alcohol abuse. There's nothing wrong around enjoying a beer, enjoying alcohol, but always in moderation. And understanding that if, for example, I drink, I shall not drive. If I drink, I should have water. If I drink, I should eat. So I always keep control. And also understanding things, for example, as you said, there's no reason for people to become aggressive. There's no reason for people to become violent. We even have a special campaign that we're going to launch early next year with our brand Carlin Black Label, which is calling a strong message to our male consumer around that real men, they don't behave aggressively. They don't need to be violent and never abuse of.
You're watching Camnet News. We take a break, but still to come are some other interesting stories. Stay with us.
And why do you look so pale and busy scratching yourself?
Lamwandi, you know my skin is very sensitive. I've tried all the skin products and nothing seems to work.
Have you tried Oracle Pure Glycerin?
Oracle Pure Glycerin? What's that?
Just give me a minute.
Oracle Pure Glycerin gives your skin a youthful and healthy glow.
Ish, you're glowing. Don't tell me.
Yes!
I already know the secrets.
Oracle Pure Glycerin!
Try Oracle Pure Glycerin for that perfect skin. Camnet TV invites all registered castor seed farmers for a 3-day training session. On Monday, 2nd November from 08:30 hours, training for trainers, cost 1,020 kwacha per participant. On Tuesday, 3rd November and Wednesday, 4th November, training for all castor growers, 620 kwacha per participant, lunch inclusive. Choose one day only.
Speakers will be Pastor Moses Chiluba, Israel Kimball from Zimbabwe, Professor Rida from Egypt.
Venue, the Healing Word Ministries International in Ibex Hill. For more information, registration and payments, use the following numbers: 0979 753010, 0962 382535, 0962 965883. Cost for castor seed and fertilizer is $805 or kwacha equivalent. Deposit in Zanaco account number 5764283500-191 Lewanika Mill branch. Let's make Zambia an economical powerhouse for Africa.
Thank you so much for staying with us. We continue with the news. Healing Word International Overseer Pastor Moses Chiluba has unreservedly apologized to Inspector General of Police Kakoma Kanganja for bringing his name in one of his sermons regarding the maintenance of the rule of law in the country. In his Sunday sermon on the 25th of October 2020, Pastor Chiluba made reference to Mr. Kanganja to the effect that he is tolerating lawlessness and becoming and barbaric behavior being perpetuated by political cadres in Zambia. Pastor Chiluba, in his apology to Mr. Kanganja, says it was never his intention to bring the name of the IG into disrepute, but was intended to address the breakdown in the rule of law. The letter, quoted in part, says, "I personally apologize unconditionally to you, to your family, and through you to the men and women in uniform in the police service who keep laboring tirelessly to maintain law and order in this great nation of Zambia." This is Pastor Chiluba's apology in parts. Let's just look at a reminder of what the sermon was about.
Kanganja is not the first Inspector General of Police. Others are alive and others are dead. One of my best police officers, when he was IG, Ephraim Mateo, my good friend, and also Dr. Malama. You know, I am not saying they are the best. If you're on the line, Bushani and Camnet, they were not the best. I am saying that there were people in this. They are leading this nation for better. There are others who were not Inspector Generals of Police. But the nation, when they were there, like the man from Sondela, was a Kazanguni, may he so rest in peace. Tamwali obupubobu. Nobu kabwala la mule umfa notu ale ibama pegisi pantambo nomba tule ingira na munganda. When Wazakazanguni was there, you would know that Jabe Nebachalo Vice. He served with dignity and with professionalism. I'm calling upon all of you, soldiers, army, especially
The Health Professions Council of Zambia HPCC Registrar and Chief Executive Officer Zambia Breweries has reminded training institutions to assess ethical conduct among medical students during training. Mr. Breweries says institutions must develop mechanisms for the detection of questionable conduct and ensure that remedial measures are put in place immediately. He says the medical profession is increasingly cognizant of the promotion of interpersonal skills, professional behaviors and attitudes. Recently, the HPCC Registrar and CEO addressed medical students at Mulungushi University School of Health Sciences in Livingstone, Southern Province. He counseled the students on the importance of good behavior and professional conduct during training, as it determines how they will treat patients when they start practicing.
Make sure that when we are training students, conduct is part and parcel of the assessment criteria for progression. Unless we do that, we are going to have bad seeds out there denting the image of the profession, and that will not work to our advantage. We are going to have practitioners out there who probably could have been boxers, and they have ended up, because they are intelligent, they have ended up in the medical profession. But that's not what we want to have. We want to fall back on the 3 C's that were developed by the Ministry of Health. Caring environment. So a practitioner has to care for the patients. We don't want a practitioner that would abandon work because they have a dispute with the employer. We deem that actually as professional misconduct, because we don't expect that even in the absence of 1 or 2 things that you would abandon the patients because you have a dispute with the employer. Some of those you see that they come about because people have misplaced priorities. If you have a passion for the profession that you want to pursue, you put patient care as a priority. So I would want you to appeal to you as students that it starts when you are students, and then you build on that. Zambia has produced very good doctors.
Green Party President Peter Sinkamba has described the news of Finance Ministry Public Relations Officer Chileshe Kandeta and his co-accused as the news of the arrest, describing it as extremely ridiculous. Chileshe Kandeta and Lazarus Mwelwa have been arrested for allegedly communicating the 2021 budget speech to the media before its presentation to Parliament by the Minister of Finance. Mr. Sinkamba notes that a budget speech of any country has never been classified document, in that there is no public or national safety and security risk whatsoever for leaking such a document to the public before its presentation to Parliament. He notes that the budget proposals are submitted by members of the public, hence wondering what logic is there in classifying or criminalizing information that was obtained from the public. The Green Party is therefore demanding for an immediate unconditional release from police custody of the 2 civil servants. Meanwhile, Mr. Sinkamba has implored government to exercise maximum restraint on unleashing police force on citizens for petty procedural breaches. In other news, Kabushi Constituency 2021 parliamentary aspiring candidate Vala Mwila has observed that the failing of Constitution Amendment Bill number 10 in Parliament shows that the President is surrounded by bootlickers who don't tell him the truth about issues going on in the country. Mr. Mwila says Justice Minister Given Lubinda confidently used to tell the President that the bill will go through, and yet the reality was different. Mr. Vala, who has not yet disclosed his party he intends to stand on, advises the head of state against listening to people who are only bent on feeding him with wrong information.
I wish to advise the President on what has happened, which is the failing of the Bill 10, which is an indication of what's to come 2021. I would love to advise you, Mr. President, sir, to say the people surrounding you are the people who always tells you lies. They've never told you the truth. They are telling you lies for their selfish interests. And I would want you to wake up and start listening to different divergence of views. Mr. President, sir, people surrounding you are pleasing you and lying to you for their selfish interests, which is wrong to say. Mr. President, sir, there are a lot of things that need to be done on the ground. In addition, I would love to urge the people of Kabushi constituency, come 9th November 2020, rise in numbers to go and register as voters for the change we need in Kabushi and Zambia at large.
The United Party for National Development, UPND party, has learned with shock the death of Republican Progressive Party President James Kasanda Lukuku. The late Lukuku was also Alliance Partners spokesperson till his death. UPND Secretary General Stephen Katuka says the party will remember President Lukuku as a fearless politician who gave all for the liberation of this country. He says the late Lukuku's dream was to see a people-driven constitution in Zambia, among other revolution ideas. The UPND leadership will also remember him for his fight for the rule of law, safeguarding fundamental rights and freedoms of the citizens. Mr. Lukuku died on Saturday around 21 hours after a short illness at the University Teaching Hospital. You're watching Camnet News. We take another set of commercials. When we come back, we look at international and sports news.
Stay home, stay safe. Times have changed. With the advent of the coronavirus, Lusaka Water Supply and Sanitation Company would like to advise its esteemed customers to avoid visiting crowded places. You don't have to move to pay your water bill. You can do it in the convenience of your home. You can pay your water bills through Zanaco Zapit, Stanbic Bank, Standard Chartered Bank, and FNB. You can also use Airtel, MTN, and Zamtel Kwacha mobile money transfer services. For any inquiries to report a fault, please contact our customer service on +260 211 251 571, +260 975 618 618, and toll-free line 5957, Zamtel only. You can also simply email customer service at lwsc.com. This public announcement is brought to you by the Lusaka Water Supply and Sanitation Company. Water is life. Sanitation is health.
Time immemorial, we have had different types of lighting options, from those that can burn down our investments in minutes to those that dig holes in our pockets due to constant replacement and huge consumption of our ZESCO units. Savenda Electric introduces the new and advanced electric bulb with cutting-edge technology of LED that has low power consumption, gives out bright white light, and lasts up to 25,000 hours. Savenda Electric manufactures all types of LED light, like plastic LED fluorescent tubes, down lights, ceiling lights, outdoor fittings, and solar street lights made to customer specifications. Let's live on the bright side of life by choosing the wide range of Savenda electric lighting solutions that are available in all leading stores and supermarkets countrywide. For orders, call 0962 642 490 or email jnbunda@savenda.com or pchabula@savenda.com.
Welcome back. We now look at international news. As the polls close in Ivory Coast, tensions remained as political forces wait for the result of the count. Opponents say incumbent president attempts to stay in office unconstitutionally. More than 35,500 security personnel were mobilized for security on Saturday. Ivory Coast went to the polls despite opposition calls for boycott and weeks of clashes. President Ouattara wants a third term. His opponents are crying foul. In other news, Algeria head to the polls later on Sunday for a constitution referendum. They will vote for a revised constitution the government has pitched as a reflection of the hierarchy, the movement that has led weekly protest for more than a year. Observers expect an extremely low turnout of the vote. Al Jazeera has more on these stories.
Alassane Ouattara cast his ballot, hoping it will help keep him in office for another 5 years. He sounded upbeat and optimistic about the democratic process in Ivory Coast.
This is an important day for democracy.
The process shouldn't be disrupted. I am proud to have led my country, laying a solid foundation for the future. Those calling for civil disobedience that cause deaths should stop. Ivory Coast needs peace.
Although 4 names are on the ballot, Ouattara's only challenger, Kwadwo Konam-Bertin, voted some 193 kilometers away from Abidjan. 2 other candidates, former President Konan Bédié and former Prime Minister Pascal Nguesson, who've both called for a campaign of civil disobedience, are boycotting the election.
No compatriot.
The vast majority of our compatriots have been very reluctant to participate in the operation that Alassane Ouattara attempted today. His constitutional and electoral coup was a failure. The Ivorians refuse to associate themselves with this masquerade of an election.
The opposition has been criticized for failing to present a united front against Ouattara, something observers say could pave the way for the president's 3rd term. While voting was largely peaceful in many parts of the country, there were reports of dozens of incidents, including ballot snatching and destruction of the voter list.
Wherever the voter register was destroyed, a new one was printed to replace it. The election process has been largely peaceful. At the beginning, people were a bit hesitant, but later, people went out to vote.
The result is expected within 3 days. More than 35,500 security personnel were mobilized for Saturday's election. Ahead of the vote, the United Nations called for calm. And for those who voted, peace and stability were the major factors.
Hopefully the situation will be resolved so that things can go back to the way they were before.
Ivory Coast was plunged into crisis when President Laurent Gbagbo refused to concede defeat in the 2010 presidential poll. In the post-election violence that followed, at least 3,000 people were killed. 10 years later, many Ivorians say they hope their leaders will avoid a repeat of what happened then.
For nearly 2 years, millions of Algerians have been demanding change. They say they want a more balanced system of power sharing, a stronger popular representation and guarantees of social and individual rights. President Abdelmajid Tebboune promised to address those demands through amendments to the constitution. Those changes are being put to the public in a referendum on Sunday. If approved, they'll limit presidents to serve only 2 terms in office and give the president the ability to appoint a prime minister from his own party if it wins a majority. And crucially, it will give parliament the power to remove the prime minister through a motion of no confidence. The government says the amendments respond to people's fundamental aspirations by establishing a genuine democracy. And there are more changes planned on social and individual freedoms.
We don't recognise this system in power, and this constitution, if passed, will plunge us into the abyss, just as the predecessors of those in power plunged us into the abyss. We do not recognise them.
The reform is designed to turn the page on a history of centralised powers and military intervention in Algerian politics.
I swear that whatever they do, we will not stop until we achieve independence. And I swear that we will continue to fight until this regime falls.
The protest movement, otherwise known as Al-Hirak, forced the resignation of President Abdelaziz Bouteflika in April last year after months of mass rallies. But government critics say his loyalists, both civilian and military, still run the country. Even after the presidential election that was organized in December in an attempt to bring change. All 5 presidential candidates in that election were part of the former government. The election saw the lowest turnout in Algeria's history. A similar turnout is predicted for Sunday's referendum vote. The date November 1st is symbolic for Algerians. It's the 66th anniversary of the beginning of the War of Independence from colonial France. But the mood of national solidarity that Algeria witnessed on that day 45 years ago is largely absent today because of political division.
We now look at sports news. In sports news, a 90th minute goal by NAPSA Stars was enough for the team to force a draw with the visiting ZESCO United. The late goal by NAPSA Stars, Loaded Muvango, cancelled out ZESCO's Clement Mwepu's opener in the 11th minute as the two sides shared the spoils at an entertaining match played at Woodland Stadium in Lusaka. ZESCO coach Numba Mumamba made 3 substitutes, among them John Chingandu, John Mokwata and Lazarus Piri, replacing Kelvin Mubanga, Logic Chingandu and Winston Kalengo, but the scoreboard remained the same. The ZESCO NAPSA Stars game was also watched by Chipolopolo coach Milutin Micho and his assistant Oswald Mutapa. At Arthur Davis Stadium in Kitwe, Luka Chimanga's goal from a Dave Daka assistant was enough for Power Dynamos to grab all the 3 points against Young Green Eagles Football Club. On that sporting item, we end our news this evening, but before we go, let's just look at the headlines once again. Enhanced condom adverts enticing teens to entangle, CARITAS Zambia. Retired Catholic Archbishop TELESPHORE MPUNDU accuses the Patriotic Front government of dividing the church. CSO'S demand for the immediate withdrawal of the NGO Act from Parliament. In international news, counting underway in Ivory Coast, boycotted poor. And in sports news, NAPSA Stars hold ZESCO United. We now look at the Camnet verse for the day, and it's coming from Psalms 121 verse 7 to 8, and it reads, "The Lord shall preserve thee from all evil, he shall preserve thy soul. The Lord shall preserve thy going out and thy coming in from his time forth, and even for evermore." That's all we could accommodate for you on the news desk. Thank you so much for staying with us. My name is Sharon Kalimbula. Good night.